Recording. All right,
We
so today we're here to talk more about the divine feminine. Cassandra, continue with what I forgot to hit record, so we're going to kind of do that intro one more time. And here we go from the top.
well, let's see if we can repeat the same thing that we repeated before because sometimes we just we go with the flow. But
Close
basically,
enough.
we are looking at what the divine feminine looks like in the Bible in the Old Testament. We're diving into the New Testament later, but we're starting with Deborah today because she was a major figure in the Old Testament that her voice was kind of it was silenced a little bit over time with different hands that touched the Bible and altered the Bible over time. Her story kind of it went by the wayside, whereas other more male centered stories kind of rose, and that's what we were taught in school. We were taught in the Bible that we should look at what those male centered figures did, but we kind of forgot about what some of the queens and the judges like Deborah did back for people in ancient times. We have different views of what these stories were back then versus now because they've changed over time. So we get to kind of look at what it happened originally when these stories were orally told to each other and to other people that just wanted to figure out the world at their time. So what do we know about Deborah? What do you know about Debbie? Debbie?
Uh, so, my name is Deborah, and it means the bee, the queen bee. It means to be industrious. And Deborah is in the Bible, right? She has her story there. And her story is one where she was a judge, and that is the current version that is recorded in our Bible. But historically, they have found older texts that give her even a higher meaning, excuse me, of even priestess and the leader of Israel at the time. And so, of course, in a world that has become very much about the patriarchy and diminishing women's roles, that story, which started as an oral story, then got rewritten over time. And so, uh, for me, I've always enjoyed the fact that my name is assigned with the B because I love bees. And we had the bumblebee mug today, which was great because it's always be kind. But I think of bees as, of course, being industrious and working together in community and seeking out the sweet things in life and how what they create, the honey that from the nectar, like it doesn't ever go bad. Like it self-sustains. It's really kind of cool. Like they have found ancient honey that you technically could eat. Like you can just scrape the gunk off the top and and whatever yuck, and underneath the honey is still good and edible. So that was what I originally knew. I knew that she was this judge, but then when I started to study her more using my encyclopedia, it talks about her having a bigger role. Tell me what you knew of Deborah growing up and hearing that story in the church.
Well, in my church, like I said before, women's roles were very much diminished. So the idea of even a woman leader wasn't, it was kind of shunned in a way because the male was the head of the household, the male was the head of the church. And because Jesus was male, because God was male in this particular church. But so when I was taught what judges were, it was that God was recognizing that women were still part of his creation and therefore needed to carry out his duties. So Deborah was just a figurehead for God in general. But it was almost like it was God allowing women to do something for once in the Old Testament,
Right.
is kind of how I'm raised.
Allowed.
Um,
Allowed.
it allowed, allowed, which to me at the time, I had a hard time coming to grips with that because I was always also taught that I was born in his image, that I was part of God, that I was a piece of God, that he created me from him and therefore I was a part of him. So how could all the women in the Bible be lesser than? and Deborah being one of them, even though it seemed like she was a ruler. So, as a child and growing up in the church, I thought, okay, she was just a piece and a pawn to do God's bidding at the time to allow women to have a place in roles in what He wants done. And then when I went to college and started learning about the Old Testament and what actually the Hebrew might have said, which is a little bit different than what the English translations say and what the King James version says, which was also altered over time. And what we found is that she was a prophetess and she was a military leader, and that she was the most prominent judge military leader. So even in the Bible itself, when we go just to the Hebrew and back to the Greek as well, we see that, like, for instance, it says that she's the wife. Oh gosh, um, the translation says that she is a wife, but in the Hebrew, the translation actually comes out to she's the wife of torches. She's the woman of torches. So she was a fiery woman. She wasn't a mother in the sense of being a mother to a child. She was considered the mother of Israel. So in the oral traditions, before we translated from our English Bible, in the oral traditions, they made her seem like such a much bigger figure than what we were talking about in our own churches. So it felt a little wrong to not pay attention a bit more to someone that actually led Israel against the Canaanites, which we hear songs and stories of Joshua, but I never heard songs and stories of Deborah. I
Very
mean,
true.
I
You don't, there's like, she's kind of glossed over, right? And they like to have a strong male figure, but a woman
exactly.
leader, that was like kind of not really brought up. I want to say again, if you're ever curious, this is the book that I am going from. It's called The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. The author spent years researching documents, looking at the works of other people, and you literally can look up anything and she's going to tell you what she found on it. So I'm going to pause right here real quick and go, and just to give you a time frame of what you were saying some of these oral traditions came from, and you went back to the Hebrew, but it says here she was a ruler of Israel in a matriarchal period. That it was a matriarchal line bearing the same name as the goddess incarnate that was in early Mycenaean and Antinomian, she was a ruler of these people and also called the pure mother bee. So I want you to think of Greece and that area. This is where this Mycenaean like community was. We're going now way before Christ. We're going like 1750 to maybe late 11th century, right? So so you're this time frame of this like this society, they were part of like the last bronze age. So they're part of this last bronze age that was happening in this area of Greece in the Aegean Sea. And so they knew her as this pure mother bee. She lived under a sacred palm tree that also bore her name, and she was identified with the maternal tree of life or the tree of Ishtar. And then there's another name that I don't know that I'll have to look up. No, Xikum. So they were giving her attributes of other um goddesses, god like people of divine femininity. And so the Bible called her a prophetess or a judge to disguise the fact that she was one of the governing matriarchs of a former age. And it's and I don't you have the Bible in front of you. It says read Judges 4:4. Can you read what that
Yeah,
actually says?
can.
Yeah.
I will show that I am reading out of the New Interpreter's Study Bible. So this Bible takes the different translations and it gives you the different options, and it also shows what other translations have popped up over the past years, especially since the 1940s. And so and you talked about this time of the
It
here
froze.
so many years
Oh, there,
before
there we go. Did it freeze for everybody else or
that.
is it me? Is it my internet?
Oh,
Maybe it
I don't
just
know.
froze. Go ahead, continue. You're back.
So in the 10th century, you were correct. And it does actually show that this time period was also kind of a, for the Hebrews in general, was a time of let's mess up, let's ask forgiveness, and let's keep going. So it was kind of, Deborah was a part of that cycle of the help us get back to the right place, help us to figure out how we're
Right.
supposed to be living correct. So Deborah, let's see, Judges 4
4
4.
4. While you're looking
Of
that
course.
up, the Persians called her the goddess Jah or Jael, because Jah is a name and El is attributed to God. And so she was actually an earlier feminine form of Yahweh. So again, not that she was God, but she was so important in her time that she was almost given that same status as it was God in a feminine form, in a human form, present day. So that was like another whole way the Persians viewed her. So you know, she is so glossed over in the Bible, but yet the Persians have a name for her, and the Mycenaean and the Antilonians have names for her. So she was very well known and prominent in her day. Sorry, continue with 4 4.
Exactly.
Judges 4 4.
Well, 4 4 just mentions exactly what I was talking about, her being the wife. It says, at the time, Deborah, a prophetess, wife of Lipidoth, was judging Israel. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramon and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites came up to her for judgment. She sent and summoned Barak, son of Abim. We're getting into a lot of names that I also don't know how to correctly pronounce, but that goes into 4 6, which basically explains that she summoned Barak to help fight the Canaanites. And Barak basically said, I can do that, but only if you come with me, because they're not going to follow just me. They want to follow you. You're the mother of Israel. You're the leader. They can only do this fighting with you at the helm. So she was necessary for them to move into what they were doing militarily, which we also don't get to experience often. I mean, even in our current military, women still have a hard time establishing their place. Whereas at this point in time, like you talk about, the matriarchy was not, I mean, it was much more well known. It was, women being the head of the table was so much more accepted in these oral traditions that she was expected to be their military leader, hands down, without question. And we even see that in the Bible itself, but somehow these stories get glossed over, like you said.
Um, I just did a cross reference on the name Ixcom because it says Deborah lived under a sacred palm tree, which you just read, that bore her name,
Mm-hmm.
was identified with the maternal tree of life, like Ixom, the tree of Ishtar. So I went, okay, well, let me go over here and see what this Ixom is about. And it says the Babylonian tree of heaven, the emblem of Ishtar, spreading her branches into the celestial and nether worlds, holding the Savior Tazum in her midst. And then the Muslims, they they took her from being the mother tree to the tree of hell. Again, writing women out, right? Like it didn't happen
Yeah.
in Christian forms. It happened in the Quran, and the Quran changed her from being the tree of life to the tree of hell. And women became the villains, and women became villainized. Like the word, just sidebar, the word witch once meant a wise woman, and now the word witch means something maybe to other people, but you can call me a witch and I'll be like, yeah, I'm a wise woman. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So to imagine in our day and age, we had uh we had a presidential election. We had a woman who was running for office. And yet there are people who felt that she was not fit to be a president because she was a woman. And where is the bias coming from? Where is that bias sustained? It is sustained in these biblical stories where women's roles are diminished, where women are put on a lesser place, where women are told to be subservient, which I saw a whole TikTok on wives be submissive to your husbands. And this very learned um, um, scholar of the Bible said that is not even really what the verses ever really said, and that was never the meaning. But boy, did they add that in as they, you have to think of as Rome took over and became a Christian, I don't want to say nation, but they were they were the empire. They when they became Christian, they used Christianity to their benefit, right? Even
They
tithing,
standardized it.
yes, and even tithing in the Old Testament really was about you celebrating and eating the best of your things certain times of the year, and only every 3 years did you give to a priest anything or to the widows. Like, and it was never about what they make it now, like you better walk in the door and hand us 10% of your money, was really not ever the true original intent. But I would have never heard that in any church I ever grew up in, right? So again, not to deviate too far off of the divine feminine, but over time, the control of how people are controlled and how they perceive their role, people's roles, has been um, bastardized and ruined over time by who had the power and how they wrote the stories, right?
Hmm. Exactly.
So,
And
so
the only way
it's crazy,
is to do this, is to start
right?
talking about it and start spreading the actual information, because it's like you said, everyone, when we were trying to elect a female president, the thought was, well, she can't handle it because she's a woman. Why do we believe that when we now know it not to be true? But when we're growing up in a society that says women can't do it, women can't do it, women can't do it, then the moment that something like that happens, we say, well, that's true. She can't do it because we've been taught that. So the only way that
Right.
we can change the idea is by talking about it and then spreading the information, especially to those that are the minds are being formed now, so that we can point out to them that these were not all correct information. This is misinformation being spread by the Catholic Church or by the church itself, because for a benefit, maybe it might be to help control, because once you silence the loud voices, then you don't have anyone to argue with you, and you don't have to worry about explaining why you've set these rules and these things into place. So maybe it could be for that. But either way, the best way to get around it is for us to talk about the fact that Deborah was overlooked, that she was a prophetess, which by itself, people kind of associate with witchery, with witchcraft too, right? So if
Yep.
the idea of God speaking through a woman, it's already frowned upon still, even though we have an example in the Bible of God taking a woman and speaking through her so that people would listen to God. So that alone shows that we've forgotten that we have that ability too, just as much as they said that men did, just as much as they said that one gender did, then we do as well, which means it's a universal thing, because we're all supposed to be connected to God. In the very beginning of the Bible, it talks about us being a part of him, or being a part of God, being a part of the creator. He didn't create us out of nothing. He created us out of him. So if we are a part of that, then we should also have the ability to do everything that the male gender can, but we have been taught that we can't. And so when we're reminded, we just believe it,
I'd
which is
like to
just
touch, yeah, I'd like to touch on something you said earlier about one of the ways she was described, and that was the fiery woman. And the fiery woman to me is like she is bringing the awareness because she's fiery because she's got the energy, right? And she's out there and she's leading and she's doing all these things, but she's also, the fire is going to bring the light, right?
mm-hmm,
So fire may be at first something that you look at as a destruction, right? It can burn things down, but it also is a light to reveal things. And so I want to think of Deborah in the way of bringing light to the things that aren't seen, that we can take from her. To be a fiery woman to me is to be the light myself. And
ignite the spark.
yes, and as a collective, what are we hiding in the shadows? Are we as a woman hiding in the shadows because we have been told that that is a man's job or that is a man's role? And in Hebrew, being called a woman of the torches really like just invokes this I see her like bearing forward, like moving forward with the torch,
Yes.
right? This image of one who is like lighting the way, right?
Hmm.
And I think of all the times, you know, be a light to light the path. And I think it really reframes it as like this active, embodied illumination rather
Hmm.
than some kind of a passive knowing. Like she just wasn't a knowing leader, like she was a forward thinking, embodied, illuminated being. And that illumination is something that each of us has within us. And maybe you've hidden your light,
Yes.
and maybe you haven't felt like you can shine your light. Maybe you have felt lesser because somebody told you you were lesser, or maybe because as a woman, we're all women in here today. Um, Although later on YouTube, men might be watching this as well. And to the men who support the women bearing the light and realizing a woman carrying her light does not diminish his, right? And my shining my light doesn't diminish yours. And I'm not here to outshine you or put you in my shadow. We're here to bring the light forward. And so again, how is that a truth within you? And is that a truth that you're like, you know what, Debbie, I need to explore that more. I need to live that more. And so as we continue to talk a little bit more about Deborah here and this light bearer and the woman of the torches and the fiery torches, I want you to really pause and think about how you shine your light. And I talked about shadow in the month of September. Was it the month of September? I talked about your shadow self because there's parts of us that maybe we want to keep in the shadow. Maybe there's parts of us we don't want to illuminate. But there's really moments of truth that pierce through the fog that maybe are uncomfortable truths that we're going to like bring to light. And maybe the uncomfortable truth that you think parts of you are not okay are really okay. And maybe you're like, you know what, Debbie, but there's parts of me that get angry. I get really mad about the patriarchy. It's okay to be angry about it. It is absolutely trying to put its thumb down, right? And you're okay to be angry about that and upset and be fiery and let your light shine and say, I'm not going to be diminished. I'm not going to play a lesser role. I can still brilliantly be me. And just think of this as this really inquiry into who I am and how I show up. And do I really believe what I was taught and told that I was lesser? Because, you know, my mom one time went toe to toe with the pastor because women could not help usher or help collect the offering plate or read from the Bible. Now, the church my mom goes to now, that was the church I grew up in, that was our church lately. Uh, I was a reader before. I would read the Bible verses. I would even read the gospel, which is like for some people they'd be like a woman standing in church and reading the gospel reading of the day. How dare she? But my mom's like, if I'm good enough to be up there at the altar, cleaning the altar, setting up, the appropriate paraments and, seasonally whatever colors we had, like I'm good enough then to do all the other things, right? And I agree with that. So I just want you to have this little bit of a reflection, and I'm curious if anybody wants to come off mic and share if any of this is sparking something as I talk about this. But where is Deborah asking you to see yourself more clearly? Where is Deborah encouraging you to light your way? And maybe even take a little bit of quiet, reflective time today. Maybe when you're done with this, maybe tonight when it actually gets like dark and the sun has set, maybe light a candle. Light a candle and really just meditate and just self reflect about the light that's within you. And when you look at that light and you see the glow and how it illuminates the darkness, and if you put your hand near the flame and you feel the warmth, like that resides within you. And if you haven't let that shine, this is your moment here today to be like, I need to illuminate myself a little more. I need to see where Deborah wants to work in my life a little stronger. I need to see her as an example of how I can be. And so I'm wondering if anybody has any thoughts on what I just said. I am would love to hear your thoughts of your comfortability in being that light. Um, Anybody want to share anything? I'm going to give full opportunity here. Then I'm going to ask Cassandra, anything you want to add to what I just said?
Well, I mean, going off of what you just said, I think it's a good reminder of Deborah in general, that she was a part of that cycle of the Hebrews at that time that were going through this. We've messed up, we don't know how to live, and we have to follow someone that does know how to show us the best way. And the person that they chose for that was a woman. So we have that, like you said, within ourselves, even if we're a man or a woman or whatever we identify with, we have feminine energies within us that allow us to heal, to grow, to change, to light our own way. And we got that from the creator or from whoever it is that we believe in, but we have that ability. So how can we, like you said, use that light to figure out how to heal ourselves and to ignite ourself and to ignite our own way and maybe those around us. So we spread this love and we spread this information and we spread that light too. Every time we influence someone, I think you've mentioned it several times in some of your lives. We are influencers whether we know we are or not. So every time we speak to someone else, we can influence them in some way, whether it just be by taking a breath together, just taking a moment to acknowledge and be a part of a community for just a second. And that's more of the feminine energy, right? The maternal energy that we talk about that the mother of Israel had. The mother of
Right.
Israel brought them together. So that light within us, it also helps us to reach out to community and spread that light elsewhere and to heal elsewhere.
I have a second thing for you to think about doing. Um, Fire is a purifier, right? It burns away.
Cleanse.
And in some areas, after a fire, there are things that germinate and grow that require the fire to germinate and grow. So, what inside of you is waiting to germinate and grow? And I want you to think of the fiery woman burning through anything false within you, anything false that you were told that the inner critic is chirping about in your mind that you're like, but that's not, excuse me, but that's not me. But you still are listening to that inner critic voice. Maybe it's going to burn through some ego attachment. Maybe it's going to burn through some limiting belief. Maybe that you're not enough. Maybe that you don't deserve whatever you think you don't deserve, that you haven't earned it. And maybe it needs to burn through so that what's authentic within you can now germinate and emerge. And so, another really great practice that's going to sound really witchy, but I'm going to tell you to do it, is to write down all those limiting beliefs, all of those negative self talk that's in your head, all those things, write them down and then burn them. Burn them in a fire safe bowl, in a fireplace, in a pot, whatever, in a fire pit outside. Burn them. Burn them and then spread the ashes in your garden, in your yard, and let that germinate within and pull that out. Like there is something very, I don't know, like we learn in so many different ways, auditory, visually, kinesthetic. This is like a transformative like action item of I'm going to really go down and write these things down that I need to let go of. I need to let go of the idea I'm not enough. I need to let go of the idea. I need to let go and then write it down and burn it. Fire is a purifier. So that can be a great act of like intention, almost ceremonial for you. A lot of people will do this based on the moon phases of what they want to let go of. And so just think about like actually having some little ceremony to honor the divine feminine within you and burn away those things that just, you've heard me tell you on a morning intention, and you're like, she keeps saying it and I believe it, but how can I actually like take it in? And maybe you need to ceremonially trash it and get rid of it. I also want you to think of fire as passion. And I think Deborah embodies that piece of passion. And I'm not talking about bow chicka wow wow passion, but I mean, there can be that passion too. But I mean, your drive, your passion to be you, not your passion to be like somebody else, but really your passion to be you, living as a spark of divine love, divine passion, divine creation, divine union with other women, with the world, with nature, with your society, with your community. So, in some of the more Gnostic and mystical traditions, they would really think about the passionate force of the divine feminine. And that energy is uniting heaven and earth in their belief system, right? And so the fire really represents like that creative pulse, that eros, that inspiration, the courage to love fiercely, to live fiercely. And maybe you're like, but I'm so afraid. I'm afraid of what somebody's going to say about me, if they're going to judge me, if they're going to make fun of me. But I want you to just like not care what anybody else thinks, but be you brilliantly you. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to knit, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, knitting is so boring." Like, I don't care if that's your passion, do it. And I'm using something very simple, but and I'm just going to use you, Britt, for a hot second. I'm just going to have to use you, Britt. I know you're not going to mind that I'm going to use you as an example, but Britt is living her passion. Britt is living her like divine, feminine, empowered, badass, I'm a goddess self. She has totally shifted into something that she did in the past that she loved and enjoyed. She's starting her own business. She's going to be doing events and wedding planning and all these things. And that is her passion. She's also creative in other ways, and in her garden, her yard, and in her TikTok videos, and the way she captures light and animals and critters and her connection to nature. She's passionate about it and it comes through. All of these things, I see you, Britt, as living as somebody, as the fiery woman, passionate about what you do, connected to heaven and earth, like all of these things. So I'm just going to kind of toot your horn, beep, beep, girl. But that's what I see you. And part of it is like, how do we reclaim that if we've lost it? How do we claim it if we've never claimed it? Like, this is like the message of the day. Be the fiery woman. Let your light shine. Connect to who you are. Do something ceremonial for yourself to like burn away the old that you want to let go. And you don't have to, you can just, it's not one and done. You can do it every month, on a full moon, on a new moon, whatever. I mean, there's rules, but don't get stuck in like, what are the rules of what I have to do? Don't wait till a full moon or a new moon. Do it tonight. Is tonight a full moon? No. Anyway, um, so I see you, Britt, and I don't know. Everything you do speaks to the passion of what is within you. And I think when you do something that you are so driven and fiery to do, you're unstoppable in that, right? And I think that's what's so beautiful. Um, Britt, do you have anything to say or add to that?
In the chat, she did say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. But oh, there she is.
Hi, I'm blushing. I also do those daily. I ground, I wake up and I do gratitude, and I'm in the shower and I'm saying everything that I need to just cleanse goes down the drain. And I do those visual things that get me in that mindset of reminding me that there's more than just what my brain's going over. And I think the way that I do that is by having habits that allow me to constantly work on myself, ground my energy, realize that there's more to me than just this little being. I even wear a little bracelet that reminds me of the universe so that I can remember that I'm just this big compared to the big picture. So those little habits like Qigong in the morning, yoga in the morning, getting up before everybody else does, it's really empowered me to get in touch with myself and to start there from the day. But so that even if the coffee spills everywhere and I have a horrible morning, I still am able, yes,
Me
I'm still
too.
able to ground myself and be like, okay, this is just you having a human moment. You're okay. I found that the reminder to be grace, to give yourself grace, has helped me be so much more authentic with myself. Like, okay, you're not happy in this situation. That's okay. That's just you being human. Feel it, and pretty soon you're going to be fine again. And I don't judge myself so harshly, so I don't hold on to things so much. Um, that's been my biggest thing. Like this year, being authentic meant really shining a mirror on my face, on myself, and looking at myself constantly and going, is this really how you're feeling? How are you handling this? And are you facing what you're going through? Even the joy. I've been trying to suck it in and look for it. So thank you for seeing that. I appreciate you, but there's a lot still to work on.
Always, right?
Yeah.
We're always
Always, always.
growing. We're always working and growing and changing and moving in different directions. So like kudos for the
Um,
progress that you've made and for the inspiration that you give other people.
I used to be a very negative person. I'm a Scorpio
I
and I
cannot
go
believe
deep.
that. It's so hard to believe. I'm shocked when you say that.
I believe
I've
it.
done
But
some
that's your
work.
progress. But I believe it because we are so self-judging. We get so stuck in the negative space. When we're not in a place of gratitude, we can
Mhm.
see all that we lack, and it just it sucks your joy out, right? So I totally get that 100%.
And thank you for
Something.
being part of that. I mean,
Oh, thank
honestly,
you.
your morning intentions, even if I'm greeting people and listening to you in my ear, it just, it's that habit that allows your brain to reconnect with who you're identifying with. It helps the ego remember, oh, I'm not that person. I'm not that 10-year-old anymore. And it just kind of replays the right type of um, loop in your head, the
Right.
conversation you want to have
I
versus the
want to
one that
touch
you were taught.
exactly.
Okay,
I
I'm
want
going
to
away
touch
now.
on I want to touch on something she said about her bracelet and being part of the universe. I saw uh Neil deGrasse on the guy who does all the hot sauces, and you go up to all the Scovilles. I didn't know he had done that because I watch that all the time on YouTube. I'd never seen this one. And he said, what are the four main elements in your body? It is, and I'm not doing these in the right order, maybe, but it's hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and what's the fourth one? Doesn't matter. He said those are the four main
Carbon.
carbon. Thank you. Those are the were carbon based. Duh. Those are the four main in your body. And guess what? Are the top four? They're the top four in your body. What are the top four in the universe? The same four. The universe is you, and you are the universe. Do you understand? Like you are the universe and the universe is you. When anything, the tree sheds its leaves, the leaves hit the ground, the leaves decay into the dirt and become part of the ground and become nutrients. And then it comes back in through the root system as nutrients into the tree and becomes maybe the fruit. And maybe the fruit is the fruit that I eat, then it becomes part of me, and when I die, I become part of the earth again. And it's this, we are recycling all of the same thing over and over. We are all made of stardust. We are
Yes,
all
favorite
part of,
thing.
we are all part of this universe. The four top top things in the universe, these four elements, there we go, that's the word, top things, we are those four things. That is
Hmm.
the top four elements in our body. We are the universe, and the universe is us. And if you ever feel like I am not enough, you are this vast universe. You are all of this creation, and it is you.
And
I
that
have
gives
one thing. Oh, sorry.
I
One
Go
thing
ahead,
to
Britt.
add. I see it this way. We are the earth or this universe versus highest version of consciousness expressed. So there are animals with consciousness, there's humans with consciousness. We are a version of the universe awakening to itself and
Yes,
experiencing itself. And we're just the newest, latest version in this part of the universe. So, yeah.
right.
Okay.
100%. What were you going to say, Cassandra?
Well, that's a great way to put it. First, that's just, I mean, seeing us as just an awakened version of it is so enlightening. But that all of that goes back to like what our authentic selves actually are, right? You've brought it up a couple times, what like expressing authenticity, and some of these, like just to kind of bring it back to Deborah and back to these Bible stories, it these stories are what we were told, right? And so we learn this information and we become biased based off of this information. But you guys are talking about the core of authenticity. So knowing what you're talking about and feeling what you're talking about is how we kind of sift through those stories and find what the truth actually is for us. So then we can come back to and see, we can read what Deborah has in these Bible stories and in your encyclopedia, and we can look at it at a different perspective with more authenticity to who we actually are within the story itself. So then we believe that she was a leader and that she brought people together in the same way that we can bring people together in our own communities, in the same way that we can lead ourselves and manage chaos the way that someone else did thousands of years ago, that we are all connected
Absolutely.
in that way too. So then we learn, okay, this is what authenticity looks like. So you touched on the actual core.
Yes. So I want to close with this last thought. And Cassandra, thank you for all you brought today. I'm enjoying this series. Just so you guys know, we're doing this every month, once a month. November and December's are already on the calendar. You can already book that Zoom, so you get the reminder and
No,
you have it on your calendar.
November
And
9th, the next day.
I'm sorry.
November 9th is the next day.
Yes, November 9th. And we're going to not only go through the biblical ones, we're going to go into other pantheons. Like this is going to be a very ongoing series. You're going to come back in 5 years here. We're going to be here talking about another goddess. So here's the final thought I really want to leave you with in closing this kind of up. The fire is not something outside of you, right? It is the light within you. It is the light that awakens you. And when that light is awakened within you, it fills you with warmth because the authenticity piece, when you connect to yourself so authentically, it's like someone flipped the switch inside of you. It's a flame that transforms. It's the warmth that reminds us that we are divine feminine beings. And even if you are, you have to understand, divine feminine and masculine live within each of us, right? And there's a balance of that. But the feminine has been downgraded for so long. And I think what is sorely missing for a lot of men is to acknowledge and balance themselves in that. And likewise for many of us women, we think we're a lesser role for that, for having that within us and connecting to it so innately as a woman. But when we live as the fiery woman, when we live that, we are embodying wisdom and authenticity in such a way that you just will never want to go back to not being who you are. You're never going to want to acquiesce, give in, back down, be less, play small. And that's the key thing I want you to take away today with Deborah is to be the fiery woman, to be your authentic self, to connect so true to who you are and and I think that's the great takeaway of the day. So Cassandra, thank you. Thank you for those who are here live on the Zoom with us. Thank you for those who are going to watch this on a replay or find us on YouTube and come across this content. And thank you. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'll keep it open just for a second. If anybody has any questions, anything to ask. And if not, you can always reach out to me or Cassandra. If we're on TikTok, I have a website, debmerced.com. You can email me. You can schedule a one-on-one with me if you're like, Debbie, I need to talk about this more. You just like blew my mind today. whatever that may be, we're here and available. So thank you all. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you November 9th. Bye, guys.